You walked into the room and felt it immediately. Every eye turning toward you, every face clocking your entrance, every conversation pausing just long enough to register you, judge you, file you away. You straightened your spine. You checked your shirt. You wondered what they saw. Here is what they actually saw: almost nothing. Your brain has been running a quiet lie on you your entire life. It has been telling you that you are standing under a spotlight, that the world around you is an audience, that every stumble, every awkward pause, every imperfect moment is being cataloged and replayed in other people's minds long after the moment has passed. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it the spotlight effect. And once you understand what is actually happening inside your brain when you feel it, you will never look at a room full of people the same way again. The story starts in 1999. A researcher named Thomas Gilovich at Cornell University ran a deceptively simple experiment. He asked students to wear a t-shirt bearing the face of Barry Manilow, deliberately chosen because protesting showed it was embarrassing, and then enter a room full of other students. Afterward, the wearer was asked to estimate how many people in the room had noticed the shirt. The observers were asked separately whether they had noticed it. The wearers consistently overestimated by nearly double. They believed roughly half the room had clocked the shirt. The actual number was closer to 23%. In other words, the spotlight the wearer felt blazing down on them existed almost entirely in their own mind. Gilovich and his colleague Victoria Medvec called this the spotlight effect. But the phenomenon itself is far older than any psychology paper. It is built into the architecture of your brain. To understand why, you need to understand something called the egocentric bias. Your brain constructs reality from a single vantage point, yours. Everything you experience as the protagonist. You are the center of your own perceptual universe, not because you are arrogant, but because you are the only mind you have ever had access to. This is simply how consciousness works, but this self-centered architecture comes with a cost. When you try to estimate how other people perceive you, you do not have clean access to their minds. So your brain does what it always does when facing uncertainty. It anchors on what it already knows best. It anchors on you. Your own feelings about your appearance, your words, your behavior become the dominant reference point for estimating what others think. And because you are hyper-aware of your own awkwardness or your stained shirt or the thing you said that came out wrong, you assume that awareness is shared. It is not. Psychologist Nicholas Epley, who has spent decades studying how humans model other minds, describes this as a fundamental failure of perspective-taking. We are not bad at imagining what others think. We are systematically, predictably biased toward overestimating how much they notice us at all. Other people, it turns out, are far too busy starring in their own movies to pay close attention to a supporting character in yours. Think about the last time you were in a social gathering and said something you immediately regretted. You probably replayed it later that night, maybe for several nights. You were convinced it had been noticed, that people were thinking about it, maybe even talking about it. Now ask yourself honestly, when someone else at that same gathering said something slightly odd or awkward, how long did you think about it after you left? A minute? 10 seconds? The asymmetry is almost always stark. Other people's minor social failures evaporate from your memory. Your own feel permanent and branded. This asymmetry is not a character flaw. It is the predictable output of a brain that spends far more time processing your own internal experience than anyone else's. Researcher Gilovich calls this the illusion of transparency, a close cousin of the spotlight effect. Not only do you believe others notice what you do, you also believe they can read what you feel. When you are nervous in a presentation, you are convinced the tremor in your voice is obvious, the sweat on your hands visible, the catch in your breath audible. Research consistently shows that observers notice far less of your internal state than you believe. The performance of calm that feels impossible from inside your body looks entirely convincing from the outside. Here is where it gets genuinely strange. The spotlight effect does not only operate in moments of embarrassment, it operates in moments of pride too. When you feel you have done something impressive, when you walk into a room wearing an outfit you love, when you give an answer you are proud of, when you arrive somewhere with a new energy, you also overestimate how much others have registered it. The spotlight does not only illuminate your failures, it illuminates you. The brain's default position is that you are observable, visible, salient. In a room full of people, your mind tells you that you are somehow distinct from the background in other people's perception. You are not. Psychologist Mark Leary, who has studied social attention extensively, has described human beings as deeply social creatures whose brains evolved in environments where being noticed could signal threat or status. For most of human history, standing out from the group mattered enormously. Being watched by the wrong person could mean danger. Being overlooked by the right person could mean exclusion. Your nervous system does not know you are at a company party in the 21st century. It thinks you might be on the savannah. It treats social attention as a high-stakes signal, so it monitors obsessively for evidence that you are being seen, and it inflates that evidence when it finds any. This is why the spotlight effect does not weaken when you know about it intellectually. Knowing is not enough. The feeling arrives before the knowledge can intervene. Your body activates the threat response first. The cortisol rises. The self-consciousness floods in. Reason arrives late, like a friend who always misses the beginning of the problem. But there is something research shows actually does help. In studies following Gilovich's original work, subjects who were explicitly asked to consider that other people were also thinking about themselves, who were prompted to shift perspective from their own self-focus to imagining the internal preoccupations of those around them, significantly reduced their spotlight effect estimates, not because they became less self-aware, but because they remembered something that the egocentric bias makes easy to forget. Every single person in that room is carrying their own invisible spotlight. Every person who passed you in the hallway today was more absorbed in their own thoughts than in the sight of you. Every colleague who seemed to notice your fumble was, within moments, back inside their own private narrative about their own private concerns. You are not the only character who feels watched. You are surrounded by people who feel exactly the same way. They are all slightly convinced they are under a spotlight. They are all slightly wrong. There is something quietly freeing in that. The room is not an audience. It is a collection of protagonists, each absorbed in their own story, each privately convinced they are more visible than they are. The spotlight you feel is real, but it is yours alone. No one else is holding it. You walked into the room and felt it immediately. But the spotlight was never pointed at you from the outside. It was always pointing outward from inside you. And the moment you see that, really see it, the room stops being a stage, and you stop being a performance.